How did Washington, D.C. become known as Chocolate City?
So I think it kind of came out as the success of the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s. During that time, you have the black population growing to a majority. After that, in the 70s, the Home Rule Act established DC's first black mayor. Chocolate City is a term of endearment. For the black community, it means the success of the past history and the opportunity to create new histories in the future. So Jones presents the reader with a post-Civil War era DC where we see changes occur to both the city and to the collective black identity. These changes take place within fluctuations in neighborhoods and families and people. In All Aunt Hagar's Children, the first story called In the Blink of God's Eye, we see a marriage disrupted because the wife is homesick. She's from Virginia, and she goes back to Virginia from DC and kind of leaves her husband wondering what happened. In this parallel story from Lost in the City called The Girl Who Raised Pigeons, Betsy Ann is raising pigeons on her rooftop. We see the pigeons come and go, which is almost symbolic of the collective black identity in DC at the time. Eventually the pigeons end up dying off, and the houses on Myrtle Street where Betsy Ann lives are emptying of people. We see this neighborhood kind of disappearing. But again, in the next stories, we see these communities forming again. So cultural geotagging is the marking of certain locations that bring along with it the idea of community and culture. With Jones's stories, it's important to remember that these communities not only exist within a certain place, but also within a certain time period as well. One of the last stories of Lost in the City, Marie Delaveau Wilson is living in the southeast quadrant in a neighborhood called Anacostia. It's a very poor neighborhood, and we see, like, for example, her Social Security benefits are being taken away. She's very frustrated. She goes to the grocery store and a young man attempts to rob her. You can tell that she is familiar with the neighborhood because she carries a knife on her to defend herself. And this is just one example of cultural geotagging in Jones's stories. So we collected our geographical data from Jones's immense detail that he wrote with in both collections. What we did is we took all the information that he provided and compressed it into Excel spreadsheets and organized them alphabetically by quadrant. Some of the locations provided explicit addresses and locations of the street names, quadrants, neighborhoods. Others we had to gather contextual clues from the story itself, the setting and the time period, and we cross-referenced DC's history to find the complete information for those locations. Some of the locations we were not able to find, but they exist in Jones's stories, and they may exist within an oral history of DC rather than a written one.